Welcome to Ocean Freight. In this video, we're going to be concentrating on calculations. In order to calculate how much cargo can fit into an ocean container, you have to take a look at what's called cargo stowage. This is the amount of room a container has to hold cargo. The length and width of the container is divided by the length and width of the package, and this determines the optimum number of packages that the container can accommodate. In addition, you have to consider the stackability of the cargo. Depending on the height and the type of cargo and packaging, different types of cargo can be stacked one on top of the other. When it comes to ocean freight, you need to determine how many containers are required for a shipment. There are 3 steps for this. Step 1, you estimate how many containers you have based on the volume and weight. Step 2 is calculate the actual number of containers based on the dimensions and weight. And step 3 would be to devise a container load plan. When you estimate the number of containers, you're going to look at the cargo dimensions of the cargo versus the cubic capacity of the container. Let's take a look at this example. You have 500 cartons of unpalletized clothing with a total cubic dimension of 150 cbm. You need to figure out how many 20 standard foot containers you're going to need. How you would do this is taking a look at our chart. We see that a standard 20 foot can hold 30 cbm or cubic meter of cargo. So we're going to take the 150 cubic meter that we know we have, that the customers told us that we have, and divide that by the 30 cubic meters that can fit inside of the container. Based on that estimation, we come up with 5 standard 20-foot containers. Cubic meter or volume is not the only component you need to look at when you're looking at an ocean container. You also need to look at the weight of the ocean container. So in this example, you have 18 pallets of rope. Your total volume is 26 cubic meter, and your total weight is 16,000 kilos. So you're going to ask yourself a couple of questions. What is the shipment volume? What is the volume capacity of a 20-foot? What is the total weight of the shipment? And what is the max payload or total weight of the container? Once you look at all of these, then you can determine or estimate that one standard 20-foot container will fit this load. When it comes to ocean freight, your final weight must be in kilograms. Be sure if you are given the weight in pounds to convert to kilograms. The way you do this is by dividing by 2.2046. Also, for volume in ocean freight, everything needs to be in cubic meter or cbm. If your dimensions are in inches, you need to convert to cbm by dividing by 61023.744. If your dimensions are in feet, you convert to cubic meter by dividing by 35.3147. And if your dimensions are in centimeters, you convert to cubic meter by dividing by 1 million. So let's take a look at the cubic meter and the weight to determine how many containers we are going to need and what type. So you have 220 cartons of clothing. Your dims are 18 by 18 by 24 inches, and the weight of each carton is 30 pounds. So we're going to figure out how many and what type of container we need. So let's take a look at the volume or the cubic meter first. So we're going to take the number of pieces in the shipment and multiply it by the dimensions of the shipment, and that will give us our total cubic volume for the shipment. But I want you to take a look at what measurement this is in. Is this in cubic meter? Since this is in cubic inches, we need to convert this over to cubic meter. And taking a look at our conversion sheet, we see that we need to divide this by 61023.744, and that gives us a total volume of the shipment of 28.03 cubic meter. Now that we have the volume, let's get the weight. We're going to take the number of pieces and multiply it by the weight of each piece, and that's going to give us our weight. I want you to take a look at the measurement for this as well. Is this in kilos? Since the weight is in pounds, we need to convert that over to kilos. The way we do that is by dividing it by 2.2046, and that's going to give us a total weight of 2,994 kilos. Now that we have the actual volume and the actual weight, we're going to compare it to our charts, and we're going to see that one standard 20-foot container is going to be more than enough for this shipment. It fits within the volume and it fits within the maximum payload capacity. Now that we've estimated how many containers we're going to need and we've figured out the actual containers we're going to need, the next thing that we're going to look at is actually the freight ton. So the freight ton is also known as the chargeable weight. So if you remember back from ocean and air, chargeable weight is volume weight and actual weight, and the larger between the two. In ocean freight, we do have a chargeable weight. The only thing is it's not called a chargeable weight, it's called a freight ton. So we're going to take a look at how we calculate freight ton. Calculating your freight ton should look very familiar to you. What you're going to do is you're going to determine the shipment's weight, then you're going to calculate the shipment's volume, and then based off the two, the larger of the two will be your freight ton. Let's get started on some practice questions. So let's figure out our actual weight. So step one, so how many pieces are there and what's the weight of each piece? We're going to multiply the number of pieces in the shipment by the weight of each piece. So now that we have the weight of the shipment, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to convert to tons. In ocean freight, because the cargo is so large, it's easier to use tons rather than kilograms. So now that you have your kilogram weight, I want you to divide that by 1,000, and that's going to give you your tonnage. Now that we have our weight, we're going to need the volume. So we're going to take the number of pieces of the shipment and we're going to multiply that by the length, the width, and the height for our volume. Before you go any further, take a look at the measurement. Is this in cubic meters? It's not. It's in cubic feet. It needs to be converted to cubic meters. Convert this from cubic feet to cubic meters. Now that you have the weight in tons and the cubic meter volume, you can compare the two. So now we're comparing two measurements. So you have your cubic meter and you have your ton, which equals into a cubic meter. So you're going to look at the two of them and see which one's larger, and that's going to be your freight ton. Ocean freight is a little bit different from trucking and air. In trucking and air, when we looked at the chargeable weight, we determined it using a weight. In ocean freight, when you determine the freight ton, you're not comparing the weights, but actually the volume. That's why you have to convert to a ton from your weight. 1 ton equals 1 cubic meter. So when you are determining your freight ton, you need both of your weights, so you need your actual and your volume to be in the same, and that would be in cubic meter. So 1 ton equals 1 cubic meter when it comes to weight. So that's how you determine your freight ton. It's a little bit different than everything else that we've done. Let's practice again. Let's calculate your actual weights. Now you're going to convert this to tons. Now that you have the weight, work out the volume. Be sure that your volume is in cubic meter. Now that you have the actual weight and the volume weight, what is your freight ton? Remember, it's going to be the bigger of the two. Some things to remember are, in ocean freight, your weight has always got to be in kilos, your volume has always got to be in cubic meter, and if you are calculating freight ton, be sure to change your weight from kilos to tons. It will help you do your comparison and determine your freight ton.